SP Vaid, he's been former Director General of Police of Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you so much, Vaid Saab, for joining me. Let me just start by asking you the same question that I began my interview of Dr. Farooq Abdullah, that do you recall ever seeing anything like this in recent memory?
Yes, as young SP in Kashmir Valley in 1990s, incidents like this, we did watch how agenda of the ISI went ahead and purging of minorities from Kashmir by creating terror and scare in the people, eliminating civilians, bureaucrats, judges, newsroom people, media personnel. So civilian killing has been happening since then, but it reminds of situation like 1990.
So again, to you, it brings back memories of that dark time. But what do you think is the reason, Vaid Saab, that we're seeing a repeat of that now? This kind of targeting of minorities particularly.
See, the reason could be fourfold. One, the radical Islamist agenda of the ISI and whoever is implementing on ground, whether it is ISIS or TRF or Lashkar or whoever.
Right.
But they are being done on the instructions of people sitting across, very clear, no doubt about it.
Right.
But the other things could be because people have been actually wrongly fed a narrative that Kashmir, the community structure is going to be changed.
Right. Demographic
change would take place. People. Right. There would be influx of people coming from rest of India. Like you saw, a vendor from Bihar was targeted.
Yes.
So otherwise, that poor man has nothing to do with all this. He was only earning his livelihood.
Yes.
So these are with that intention. Then abrogation of Article 370, and then people from rest of country being allowed to buy land and set up industry and business and all that.
Right.
So a very clear message that you cannot do that. Another thing could
yes.
Because under the Prime Minister's package, vacancies falling short in Kashmir, belonging to minority community. A lot of recruitment was taken under the PM package, and young boys from minority community like Kashmiri Pandits and Sikhs were appointed against these vacancies.
Right.
So it could be a message to them also. So the
it could be many factors, but yes. What do you make of those who are questioning? I mean, we are even hearing voices of the minority community in Kashmir speaking up now, because the government is issuing advisories saying, you know, shut down your shops early, don't venture out. And they're asking, saying, you told us that Article 370 will be abrogated, now there'll be no violence and there'll be greater protection for everyone. And those claims are now looking hollow.
Srinivasan, let me make things very, very clear here, very forthrightly. See, just abrogation of Article 370 does not ensure terrorism, check on the terrorism. You need to dismantle the ecosystem which still exists in Kashmir. You saw what President of France, Mr. Macron, did. How various steps were taken by government of France to check radicalization. Are we seeing there are hundreds of madrasas in Kashmir and thousands of them in rest of India? Who is seeing what is being taught them? Are you preaching them a pure religion, or are you generating terrorists in these madrasas? Somebody needs to look into this aspect.
What about also the point that Farooq Abdullah was making, that if you're going to have a climate of anti-Muslim hate in the rest of the country, every day we hear of bigoted statements being made by high government functionaries. We see targeted attacks on minorities all the time these days. That if you're going to have that in the rest of the country, there will be a resonance, or there will be an impact of that in Kashmir.
I completely agree with Dr. Farooq on this issue. India is a composite country, and if a particular community is targeted, or a minority, for example, Muslims, let's say very frankly, now such incidents are exploited by ISI and repeatedly put through social media, bombarded on the young minds of Kashmiri boys.
Right.
And that has an impact on Kashmiri boys.
Right.
Taking up guns, taking up radical steps. So we have to be very watchful of. After all, India is a composite culture.
Yeah. Okay. That's important. That as you say, that one has to maintain the communal temperature across the country. You can't just try to do it in an isolated way. But thank you, Vaid Saab, for joining us. Your insights are valuable as always. Thank you very much indeed.